What's up? A to Z Sports Live on a Monday. Everybody, we have made it to the end of the slow time of the first part of the NFL offseason as free agency week is finally here, and everything will get kicked off today at 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time when the legal tampering window opens for less than 48 hours or right about 48 hours until everything can become official Wednesday afternoon. So, Zach, we're going to have a big week and a big start to the week early on this Monday as Titans free agency rumors are running across the internet. We'll have to figure out what is legit, what is a lot of hope, and what things are not going to happen with the Tennessee Titans free agency. We're going to have a good show here as multiple reports have come out about the Titans and their free agency needs and what they're going to be trying to do. We've got a fairly aggressive report coming from one, and we've all already got a few players linked to the Titans in free agency. And so, Zach, welcome back. You've had a very busy last couple of weeks, so been away from the show for a little bit, but going to have a big time show here on this Monday, and we'll wrap up with the age game after going through all of the free agency rumors. So let's get this thing rocking and rolling here.
Yeah, big week, as you said, and it is because this is where teams change their trajectory of their Super Bowl windows, their season, their rebuilds. I mean, this is where you spend a lot of money and you take a lot of risk and you take a lot of chances. The Steelers, they're starting off hot with Mr. Unlimited. We'll see how limited they are with Mr. Unlimited. So moves are already starting to be made, which is always a good thing. The Titans have their fair share of things to address in free agency. That will also paint a picture on what they do with the draft, I believe. So a lot to get into. We'll find out throughout the course of this week, but a great Monday morning, a lot to dive into. Let's start with sharing the show. We're broadcasting live on 3 different platforms. You can share the show or retweet the show or like the show on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. We're also on Twitch. We'll tweet out our link at A to Z Sports on our Twitter feed or /X feed, our YouTube link at ATOZ Sports. So retweet us there. But really what we need you to do is on YouTube, we're at 16.9 thousand subscribers. We're trying to get to 17. Short goals to big goals. We'd like to get to 20. That's been the road that we're on, but we're on 16.9. So to put us over the hump, to get us to 17,000 subscribers, that's what we need. Like this video. If you've already subscribed, that will help the algorithm start to kind of churn. So all this week, it's big free agency week. If Titans fans have not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, this is a great time to do it because we'll be throwing out content upon content upon content on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. So subscribe and like this video. You can also hit the alert button to make sure that you know when we go live. Facebookers, what's going on Facebook? Bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing on this show. So share the show around. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed, and let's get this party started on a Monday morning.
Yep, let's officially get rolling. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over our social media feed as we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. And also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans at fbhp.com/ATOZ. And Krebs Kubota, an elite Kubota dealer with 3 great locations across the mid-state, Columbia, Murfreesboro, and Franklin. They are online at krebskubota.com. So it is Monday of free agency week. The new NFL league year officially begins Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central. So that's when everything becomes official. So we still got just over 48 hours before all of this stuff will become official. And you've got the legal tampering negotiating window, whatever they want to call it. But the window of negotiation that will begin at 11 o'clock Central Time today and then go through the next couple of days. And so the Titans that have a lot of cap space to spend, anywhere from $78 to $90 million, depending on what website you look at, Spotrac, Over the Cap, or any of these other services, a lot of money to spend and a lot of players they need to get, because this roster is going to be flipped with Rand Carthon holding the keys to the roster as the GM, and new head coach Brian Callahan, a new philosophy, new everything. Zach, it's been a while since you've been on the show. Had a busy couple of weeks. But how do you feel? What's your temperature? Lick the finger, test the wind blowing. What's your temperature on what the Titans free agency might look like this week in particular?
So, I woke up this morning and I thought about the approach, right? It's all about the approach. What approach have the Titans taken over the last several years? And then now, what are they going to take with a second-year general manager and a brand new head coach, an all-new coaching staff, a new direction, a new official starting quarterback heading into this year? And I look at last year and what Rand Carthon did, right? We now know more. They wanted to reset more than rebuild. They did that, but what did they do? They went out and targeted linebackers, offensive linemen on short-term deals, right? They didn't give the 5 and the 6. They didn't spend the massive amount of money. You talk about dipping their toe in the water. That's what they did last year. Now, I think they had some good signings, and then they also had some questionable ones, and that happens every year. But I think the big impact is that Rand didn't just go all in, knowing that Tannehill and Derrick Henry were more likely to come off the books. The salary cap more than likely was going to increase. It did. And so now you've got a plethora of opportunity. That's what I think. Opportunity in two forms. Straight cash, homie, with $80+ million in cap space and a top 10 draft pick that you hope you don't have consistently, but they have it this year. So there's draft capital to get some really impactful players and draft well. But what boxes are you going to check in free agency will tell us what they're going to do in the draft. I have not been on this show in some time, as my role kind of changed a little bit of what I think from the stirring of the last couple of weeks, the combine conversations. It looks like, or appears to be, the Titans are probably going in a direction that I don't think that they should go, and target a wide receiver #1 instead of a offensive lineman #1 in the draft. Now, we won't know until they get on the clock, right? We don't know what wide receivers will go in the first 6 picks. We also don't know what offensive linemen will go in the first 6 picks. We don't know what trades will happen. We don't know what quarterbacks will be valued and undervalued. So a lot can change. But from the temperature and kind of the language from Brian Callahan that I've heard is they're trying to get some playmakers around Will Levis. That's exciting. That needs to happen. I'm not saying that. But what moves are you going to make this week in the first wave where you actually spend that big dollar on those impact players that we can kind of see the writing on the wall on that 7th pick if they do, in fact, pick at 7?
Yeah, for sure. And Bork brings up a good point here. He says, it's wild the Titans have the 3rd most cap space despite having the most dead money on the books. That means they don't have a lot of players under contract, which means they have to go add a lot more players, whether it's in free agency, the draft, and after the draft, and undrafted free agents, and more free agency that happens over the summer like they added with DeAndre Hopkins. So there's a lot of moves to be made, a lot of money available to be spent, but that doesn't mean that they're going to just flat out spend all the money. So, Zach, let's flash back to the NFL Combine. Rand Carthon was asked about, you got a lot of money to spend. How are you going to spend it? And here's what the GM said at the NFL Combine 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of cap space. I know that's what, everyone is talking about and how much we have, but we have to spend wisely. We don't want to just load up and just go, and spend money. Again, we're trying to build a long-term consistent thing, and you can't do that spending all $90 million out front. We got to be patient. We got to position ourselves that there are going to be guys that come free in June and July, like when we got D-Hop, that we have to have the space for and be able to afford it. And plus, we have to have money for operating costs moving forward throughout the fall, which, I think for most of the season we were in the top 5 and having space available. So we plan to be active, but we're going to be patient and let everything come to us.
Active but patient. Got a lot of money to spend. Can't do it all in one place, like your grandma said when she gave you your $5 bill when you were a kid. Don't spend it all in one place. So let's ask the question to everybody here. We'll get to some of the reports / rumors that have come out about the Titans, but let's set the stage. How aggressive should the Titans be in free agency this offseason? Let's put it on a scale of 1 to 10. How aggressive should the Titans be in free agency this offseason on a scale of 1 to 10? We'll talk about some of the rumors here coming up, but we want your temperature check. How aggressive should they be on a 1 through 10 scale? But first, let me tell you guys about Krebs Kubota. KrebsKubota.com is where to go for all of your equipment needs. It is spring out there. You had to move those clocks forward yesterday to catch up with everything changing with that daylight savings time thing. But spring also means projects outside around your home, your property, your commercial, your business, whatever you've got going on. Krebs Kubota can help you accomplish that because they are an elite Kubota dealer, which means they have the best equipment to go along with the best warranties. Very important. Also, what's very important with equipment is having a relationship with your equipment provider and dealer. They are there for you. They are your teammate in trying to help you accomplish and finish all of these projects you have outside around your home and your property and do it the right way, the cost-effective way, and the safe way. And Krebs Kubota has been there for over 18 years in the mid-state. They've grown from starting in Columbia, family-owned and operated in Columbia, now in both Murfreesboro and Franklin to go along with Columbia. So check them out online at KrebsKubota.com.
A to Z Sports, we are powered and driven by BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app today on your phone. You can go to your app store, Apple or Android, and get that app today. You got a lot of college hoops over the weekend, a lot more college hoops this week with conference tournaments, and then you've got the madness on the way. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's ATOZ Sports. They're the king of the sports book. You get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses with that bonus code ATOZSPORTS for new users. Download the app today.
How aggressive should the Titans be in free agency? Zach, I'll send you the chat on a 1 through 10 scale. How aggressive should the Titans be on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch? What are the people saying this morning?
So a lot of comments rolling in quick with some numbers. Rooney, Eric, and Ashley and Eddie all start the chat off with 7, 7, and 7. Patrick goes 8. Marlon goes 7, 6.9 there from Steven. That's nice. Nathaniel goes 7, 6.9 from Devin. That's also nice. Jared says 6. Luman 88. Curtis C 6. Clayton 8. Let's see. 8 from Billy. You've got Charles at a 20, so he's off the Richter scale. Very aggressive for a 10, but not stupid from Jason.
10 is borderline stupid aggressive.
Well, not in Jason's opinion. Jason says, another Jason says 6, 7.5 from Brad, 7 from Brian, Matthew 7, 7.5 from Darius. Jake says 5, James says 6, 7.77 from Hello Ladies. Colby goes 8, Eugene goes 8, Caleb goes 8, 7.5 from Danny and Apollo. Top tier goes 7.77. Jody 8.5. So all kind of over the map, but more in the range of, I would say, 7 to 8. That's kind of been the majority of kind of what the numbers that we've seen. We got a 6.5 there from Rambo, and an 8 coming in there on YouTube. So a lot of great comments. That's the temperature check. Austin, what do you think they should do? Should being the key word, not will.
Yeah, should in all caps. What should the Titans be? How aggressive should they be? I think I'm at a 6.5. Be aggressive. Like, you have to spend some money. You have to prove to this fan base that you are going to invest in winning. You just fired Mike Vrabel, who a lot of fans loved and wanted because he was a proven coach, to hire a guy that's never done it before. You've got a GM that people could still be skeptical on because you don't really know what all he was doing last year. So you need to show enough, but you can't be overzealous. because this Titans team, I don't truly know how far away they are from competing, but I think they have a pretty good distance to go. So I also think they should set themselves up to be a multi-year rebuild for a push. I think they should spend money, be aggressive, but don't jeopardize next offseason's cap space. Because if you can put this offseason's free agency haul, this NFL draft, and still go into next offseason with a decent amount of money to spend, $50+ million in cap space next year after this haul, and then pair those two draft classes together, now you're building something over multiple off seasons to compete in a legitimate way going into the 2025 year. You're still not truly sure what Will Levis is going to be. There's going to be growing pains with him and Brian Callahan as working together for the first time ever. So I say 6.5. Spend enough to consider yourself serious about getting back to winning and getting back to the playoffs, but make it available next offseason too to be able to stack classes on top of each other.
Austin, I think you're not aggressive enough.
Oh,
yeah.
On what they should be doing?
Yeah.
Or what they will do? Because we'll talk about what they're being
what they should. I think that you're a little light.
Okay.
This thing needs to be an 8. You have got to go in this offseason, and there's multiple reasons why. And go in, what is defined go in? Right, I'll tell you what that is.
Yeah.
Going in is targeting the key positions of need, right? You got 3 spots that you're in trouble at, right? Wide receiver, offensive line, and corner. You need a safety to replace Kevin Byard, so you just throw the secondary in there as all-encompassing. You got $80 million, okay? Here's the caveat. There's 2 things. You've got to be aggressive, Austin, because the number one thing you have got to find out is if Will Levis is going to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and you don't get the luxury of a 5th year because he was a 2nd-round pick.
Right.
You also don't get a luxury of a 3rd-round pick this year. There's a gap, right? And that is a gap. I don't know what will be traded. We don't know how the draft will shake out. But there is a gap in those picks, right? You go from, 38 to 105. Mm-hmm. Those are a ton of value players, right? Because of Will Levis. You got to remember, that was the pick they traded away. The other thing that you have to think about, Austin, you're sitting here about saving money in the future. Look, you're not going on a Super Bowl aggressive push. Now you're talking 9 and 10s. 9 and 10s, you better go all in to try to beat the Chiefs, to beat the Bills, to beat the Ravens, to beat those type teams. The Titans aren't in there. But to set up the understanding of who your quarterback is just as important. Because if you're sitting here wavering and you don't know, or you don't give him the protection, or you don't give him the players, or you don't give him the defensive assets, Austin, you're going to be in purgatory and in turmoil, kind of like the Titans have been in over the last 20 years, let's say. Like, that's what they've been. Whether it was Vince Young, Jake Locker, Marcus Mariota, or Ryan Tannehill, they have not had the cemented quarterback. So at an 8 with all of this money, and here is the also other X factor. Austin, you're going to get more salary cap next year.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to happen. COVID, bye-bye COVID. Take your mask off. It ain't around anymore. So you need to go in because you need to play the game. Now, Rand Carthon needs to be smart. Here's the other thing that you don't want to do. You don't want to save your money and then spend your money on huge contracts. And if they don't work out, you've lost a lot of money, right? Bad contracts can be detrimental to a general manager in a franchise. You've got to go in there with the money that you have. You've got to look at the landscape of the market, but you got to be aggressive. You want to help your new head coach, your new coaching staff, your quarterback, your new official starting quarterback face of the franchise. You've got to help all of those things. And the way that you do that is spend the money combined with your top 10 draft pick. I'm at an 8.
All right.
And
So like, I think,
it's not and here's what I say. It's not in J-Rob we trust. It's let Rand cook, right? So in J-Rob we trust, it's let Rand cook. He better put that chef's hat on and go buy some ingredients, some recipe makers this offseason.
All right. So again, somebody said here, I favorited a few comments while Zach was talking. Somebody said like 6.5 isn't being aggressive. And it depends on maybe what you're. Everything's not.
6.5.
Everything's relative, right? So, yeah. But again, how much money how much cap space do you think it's smart for the Titans to go into the season with?
How much cap space did the NFL grant all of the teams this year?
$30 million this year, right? But that was different. That was a makeup call. That was used as a
Austin. They're signing streaming contracts.
I know that it's going to continue to go up, but it's not going to grow by $30 million every year.
You don't know that.
I'm not banking on it, pun intended.
You're not banking on it. The players are.
Let me ask you a question. How much money do you think is smart for the Titans to go into the season with under the cap?
Well, so traditionally you've seen in the last couple of years in a completely different state of the franchise, right? Because they're a playoff team. I mean, they'd go in with 10, 15, something like that. If you go in there with 20 and you're spending $60 million, I'm completely okay with that. Because if you don't get $30 million in additional salary cap next year, you'll get 20 to 25. It's going up. So now, you don't have to go. And what are you going to do? Let's just be this year is not about a playoff push. I don't know if you're going to flip the script like the Texans did, right? But you're trying to figure out what is your new offensive-minded head coach going to do with a quarterback that has a little bit more experience than a rookie and kind of a new concept to go out there and play ball. You got to surround himself with the right pieces. Find out. And the only way you find out the real true nature of a quarterback, and if you're going to invest, is to actually put the pieces around him that he can work with. And that's spending money, being aggressive.
I'm not saying they shouldn't spend money.
But 6.5 is not aggressive.
I also agree with you. Going into the season with $20 million of cap space is the smart way to approach it. And so I think the difference of we're 1.5 aggressive points off. You're an 8, I'm a 6.5. I would rather spend it on more players than be aggressive in signing some of the best players on the market at those positions. Does that make sense? I think I am going my aggressive is a 6.5 because I don't think it's smart to get into a bidding war with a couple key names or the top player at their positions available. That is where my aggressive level comes down.
If those players are key positions of need, safety, corner, offensive line, wide receiver, any of those 4, then you need to be aggressive.
So let's get to a couple of the reports and rumors that have come out here because look, there are a couple players that have been mentioned and linked with the Tennessee Titans and about this aggressive nature. We were going to talk about this aggressive scale this morning regardless, but a tweet came out this morning from the Pro Football Network from Adam Kaplan's reporting. Just in, word around the league from multiple sources, the Titans plan to be fairly aggressive in free agency with cornerbacks Chidobe Awuzie and CJ Gardner-Johnson on their radar. So fairly aggressive, Zach. What does fairly aggressive translate into on our number scale to you? Because I think fairly aggressive is like 7.5 max. Fairly aggressive.
Well, for the Titans, right? Like there are some aggressive franchises that are notorious spending money in free agency, right? The Green Bay Packers are not one of those, right? They draft players. So you have your notorious, the Bucks tend to spend money in the offseason. They always have. The Glazers have always spent money. So you have and the Titans as of late, they've had some weird experiences getting old Julio Jones, older DeAndre Hopkins, Jadeveon Clowney. Like they've had some, I think, out of character type players join their team since the Mike Vrabel era, right? You could say that. Sure. What is this new era going to be? fairly, plus you've got Rand Carthon, he's second-year general manager, right? And they didn't spend that much because they didn't have much to spend in his first year, so they did what they did. So fairly aggressive, I think is on a Titans scale, it's probably pretty aggressive.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
You said fairly aggressive is probably pretty aggressive. I asked
For
you
on the Titan scale. That's what I'm saying. Because they're not notorious.
Our number scale.
Because they're not notorious. Look, I've already said I think they should, and I think that they will be more aggressive than what you think.
Let me ask you again. Specific question I would like a numerical answer for. I'm at a 6.5 for aggressiveness for them out of 10. You're at an 8. The word fairly aggressive. Where does that fall numerically on the 1 through 10 scale, in your opinion? Where does fairly aggressive fall there?
Probably 7.
Okay, that's what I thought too. Around 7 to 7.5 max is where that fairly aggressive scale would be. And so
So you're less than fairly aggressive. I'm over than fairly aggressive.
Yes. So, and you look at these two players when it comes to Chidobe Awuzie, who has a connection with Brian Callahan being in Cincinnati the last 4 years as a cornerback. Then you have CJ Gardner-Johnson, who can play corner and safety in the NFL. He spent time with the Eagles before that, before the Lions last year. He was with Denard Wilson, the new defensive coordinator, when they were both in Philadelphia together 2 seasons ago. So I think those two players make a lot of sense when it comes to signing a position of need and going into being somewhat aggressive, fairly aggressive, to go get veterans who know how to play in positions of need.
I think
they're not going to break the bank because those two guys are not the highest, best level players at their position.
No, they're not. I think this is the great way to categorize it. If fairly aggressive is 7, I think you're slightly aggressive, and I am aggressive. I'm not really aggressive, but I'm aggressive. And 7 is fairly, you are slightly. I think that's how we define this conversation. And I think they should, whether they will, it depends on the players. And here's the big impact, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, is like, what are the other teams going to do? Right? Yeah. Like what situations? Because you got a lot of teams with a lot of cap money because they just got a $30 million bump. And there's a lot of teams that had kind of weirdly good seasons that still have a lot of cap.
Sure. You know? And there's a lot of teams that are already signing back their own players or signing players that have gotten cut or released as cap casualties. The Titans have not done that yet, which is fine. You know, they can't legally start negotiating for another couple of hours. So there's no reason to freak out or anything, but the Titans have been very quiet. They brought back long snapper Morgan Cox, and you're seeing players go back to their original teams, or, Russell Wilson going to the Steelers, or the Jags have signed a couple players. Mitch Morse, who was cut by the Bills last week, is going to Jacksonville to be their new center. So there's moves that are being made already, but the Titans have been quiet to this point. And so we don't really know what their plans are going to be.
And I think the teams you got to kind of watch on, and kind of what I mentioned is good teams from last year that have a lot of cap space. The Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts that are still trying to figure out Anthony Richardson because he didn't get a full time to actually play. The Cincinnati Bengals have a lot of cap space. And Joe Burrow obviously didn't finish the season.
Yeah, so 21 million of their cap space is going to T. Higgins as of right now.
As of right now, right? But we also know that they are changing. We don't know what conversations happened at the combine. We don't know the movement there. They may sit on them. They may trade them. Who knows before the draft. But those type of teams you would assume are going to be more aggressive because they feel like they have an opportunity to level up into the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills conversation in the AFC.
Yes. So we're going to get to some another question about where to spend, right? Because Rashid brings in a super chat and says, the question is, what are you willing to spend? Also, the amount of money is necessary to win. So there's Rashid's super chat there of like, is what are you willing to spend and the amount of money that's necessary to win this year? I think is an interesting point there by Rashid.
Okay. So to Rashid's point, I think the Tennessee Titans, their goal, what they're trying to accomplish this season, this offseason, heading into this season, in weeks 14, 15, 16, Because I think once you get to 17, 18, like you're down to the nitty gritty. Are you competing in those games, right?
In the hunt graphic.
Are those games during those particular weeks, can your quarterback, Will Levis, define your season with good play? Because that's what they're trying to get into. If you're playing like the Arizona Cardinals and you're not playing for anything, you're just trying to play spoiler. That's not a good scenario. But 14, 15, 16, those weeks, that's what the Titans are playing for, at least now, before we know any new players. I think that's got to be their mindset as they're, plus forever on winning the Super Bowl. They're not trying to win the Super Bowl, but they're trying to compete in those 3 weeks to see if they're going to compete and maybe backdoor their way in or prevent a rival from getting into the playoffs.
All right. So Devin says they're just trying to build a damn foundation. And I think that is where I am at. I want a foundation that's sustainable for 3+ years in this. I don't want the starting of that. I don't want there to be overly aggressive to where in 2027 or 2028, you're in the same spot you were a year ago, where you have to cut a bunch of highly paid veterans over 30 years old. And now you've got the league's most dead cap space again. That's what I don't want to see that cycle repeat every 5 years, going for it, fail, have to cut a lot of fat, and then reset again. That's kind of my stance on it.
I'll kind of push back with the foundation. Because look, I don't think that they're in foundation mode. I think they're in identity mode. The Titans are trying to find a new offensive identity. And I say offensive identity because their identity the last several years, hell, forever, is run the damn football and play damn defense. That's what they've been doing. Their focus, I don't think, is foundational. I think their focus is identity, offensive identity with a new offensive-minded head coach and a new quarterback that is going to change the way they play football. And foundation is foundation. I think the Malarkey-Vrabel transition, that's foundational, right? Because they needed to change.
But that was also identity too. I think foundation and identity can be synonymous when you're talking about a football building, right? I think
I don't think in this scenario it is, though.
In order to have a foundation,
identity is different than foundation.
Zach, when you're building a house, you start with a foundation, but you already know the blueprint of the house, right? So it's the same damn thing. You already know what the house is going to look like, but you have to begin with a foundation.
Do you know what the house is going to look like?
It's not my job to know it because I'm not in the building.
I'm asking you. Do you know what the house is going to look like?
I have a pretty good idea.
BS. Oh, come on. Nobody has a GD clue what this house is going to look like. We don't know.
I know, but we're not the ones building the freaking house. We're the ones and the neighbors in the street wondering what's going to happen over there.
That's the point. You don't know what the house looks like.
So they're going to start to build the foundation, and they know. That's
the identity. The house is going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say tacky is not the right word, but have a little bit more flair than good old Derrick Henry and an offensive line that can't pass block. That's the point.
The whole point, Zach, is when the foundation starts to get laid and you figure out, this is going to be a fairly big house, or is this going to be a tiny little foundation? Like, here comes another tall and skinny in Nashville. It's probably going to blow down in a tornado in like 10 years, right? You don't want that to happen. You want to have a big foundation, a solid foundation to grow into the identity. But the whole point of your identity and bucking that
offensive identity, specific.
But Zach, you know what the identity is going to look like as you're building the foundation. That's why you're building the foundation to fit the identity. That's the point. That's the whole point of the words.
The difference is the offensive identity will be valued more than I think it ever has been.
Yes, I think we all understand
that is my point. Singular thing is something that is new to this franchise.
Okay, let's get into this then, because we've already talked about the first report of from Pro Football Network's Adam Kaplan. The Titans plan to be fairly aggressive in free agency with cornerbacks Chidobe Awuzie and CJ Gardner-Johnson on the radar. Another report/rumor came out Sunday night from Chad Forbes saying Michael Onwenu to the Titans has steam. So we haven't seen anything yet because the legal tampering period has not begun yet for another 2 hours here. So our question now, there's a few players of note, but what's the number one priority position for the Titans in free agency? What's the number one priority position for the Titans in free agency? We'll get to everybody's comments. We need more likes on the show too. Hit that like button as you're answering the number one position to prioritize in free agency. But Zach, first tell everybody about Farm Bureau health plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com is where to go to get your health plan. I got my health plan a couple of years ago. Love it. Carried it over into 2024. They have 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. Health, dental, and vision. You can count on them. They've been in business over 75 years. It's very, very simple. You go to FBHP, Farm Bureau Health Plans, FBHP.com/ATOZ, and you get a health assessment. Once you get a health assessment, then you get a quote. Once you get a quote, then you decide if that's the right health plan for you for that right price. It saved me 20% from my previous health plan. So it can benefit you and your family. They've been trusted here in Tennessee. If you're a Tennessean like I am, use this plan. It can help you out. It can save you money and can give you the best coverage. That is Farm Bureau Health Plans of Tennessee, FBHP.com/ATOZ.
And with BetMGM, you always know you can win big with our bonus code ATOZ Sports. That's your first bet. You can get back up to $1,500 in bonus bets if the first bet misses, but you can also pass to Jalen Rose, dish to KG, Kevin Garnett, or take it to the rim yourself to play BetMGM's Fast Break free-to-play game daily and get a basketball reward for if you score a basket. To access the Fast Break game in your BetMGM promotion section, play the game, see if you can win. Your prizes could include bonus bets, bonus tokens for the NBA and college basketball bets. Big time of year to have those college basketball bets right there. So play the Fast Break game on the BetMGM app to see if you can score. See BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only. Existing customer offer. All promotions are with qualification and eligible requirements. First online money wager only. Rewards issued knowledgeable bonus bets. Bonus expires 7 days. And for problem against call Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789. Zach, we asked the question here. What's the first position to prioritize for the Tennessee Titans in free agency? I will send you to the chat where we still need more likes. Better. Had a little juice bump of likes, but still could use some more likes. What position does the chat have the Titans needing to prioritize here?
Patrick and Jacob going offensive line, cornerback from Big G, offensive line from Tyler, center in particular, Connor Williams from Michael, offensive line, tackle offensive line from Chris. Priority is tackle from Duran. Steve says left tackle, cornerback from Marshall. Willie goes offensive line, defense and offensive line from Corey, cornerback from Jason, safety, talking about replacing Kevin Byard, who just went to Chicago, offensive line from Pistol Ramsey, kicker from Steven. Interesting take there. Corner from Billy Jones, nose tackle from Lou. RB talking about running back from Hello Ladies. I think that's a separate side conversation of like what the Titans think about Tajay Spears and him as a feature, right? Mm-hmm. And are they going to target? There's some expensive running backs. I'll say this to Hello Ladies. They just got done with an expensive running back. I think it's one of those things where like, all right, you dated an extrovert, probably need to go, try some introverts. I think this is going to be a shift where you need a multifaceted running back like Tajay Spears gives you, where he can play first, second, and third down. I think that's probably what they're going to lean into. Doesn't mean that they're not going to have, different running backs in the queue, but yeah. I don't think that's a priority, especially not the top, in my opinion. Major Key says offensive line, couple cornerbacks from Connor and Rooney and Caleb. We got our first kind of wide receiver talking about that, which I do think is a huge, interesting topic when it comes to this offseason free agency versus draft, right? So you're going to have to kind of pick and choose what you're going to put your chips on. So, altogether, I think a lot of chat is saying the same thing between offensive line overall and corner. You've had some safety and wide receivers sprinkled in there. What is your opinion on this question?
Yeah, so the first priority, right? The biggest priority as far as position goes. Look, offensive line is maybe the biggest need, but I think you're already planning on doing a lot of offensive line work in the draft. I think the first priority needs to be on defense in free agency. Zach, I was scanning through Bill Barnwell's free agency player tiers on ESPN.com that came out late last week. He tiered them in franchise players, Pro Bowl caliber, capable starters, and then fringe starters / good backups. Those are like the top 4 tiers before you get down to some of the other guys, veterans that get backup, guaranteed money, yada, yada, so on. On the offensive line, there's a couple guys that might be Pro Bowl caliber, but there's a lot of guys that are capable starters on the offensive line. But when you look at the defense, there's a lot of guys on defense that are available in free agency that are franchise players. Now Chris Jones is out, but then you've got Christian Wilkins and some other big time names that are Pro Bowl level players. And there's so much better players available on the defensive side of the ball in free agency compared to the offensive side. So with me expecting the Titans to go offensive line or wide receiver, or vice versa in round 1, round 2 of the draft, I think they have to prioritize the secondary on defense, because who's the starting cornerbacks right now? Like, you have Roger McCreary. Who's the starting safeties? You have Amani Hooker. Do you like Elijah Molden to be a starting safety for 17 games? I don't. Do you like Trey Avery to be a starting cornerback for 17 games? Absolutely not. So I think you have to prioritize the secondary on defense. Cornerback, safety need to have probably 3 signings before you get to April, which is like the first kind of wave, right? Like, I think you have to go heavy there more than other positions because of what you're likely to do in the draft.
Yeah. So, I kind of did this before the show based on this question. Take the 5 offensive linemen, right? How many need to be replaced?
Ideally 4, but I think you can live with 3.
I think that's the correct answer, right?
Yeah.
Cornerback, how many need to be replaced?
Like your 2 ones that play 95% of the snaps.
That is the problem. I offensive line, and it goes back to what I.
Yeah, but you're not drafting a cornerback until 105.
Well, they tried that. Christian Fulton and Caleb Farley. Right. There you go. So you don't do this. It doesn't mean you're never going to draft a corner, but like, they tried that. Roger McCreary, I think, has been good and bad. I think we've seen that, right? Now, how is that impacted by the defense overall? But you spent a 1st and a 2nd round pick, and you got both, right? So I think what did you think about Sean Murphy-Bunting?
I'd call him back.
Right? At least adequate, better than those 2. And Farley didn't play. But so I definitely, I would agree with you. I think their top priority is offensive line, because you need to replace four players, whether they will or not. I don't know what they're going to do in the draft. I'm excited, I'm eager, I'm ready. But they're not going to go spend massive amount of money on a left tackle. That's not how you.
There's not one to spend money on.
Well, they spent money on Andre Dillard last year.
But that's not
it's not
spending $29 million on a left tackle over 3 years is not spending money. That's very calculated.
Well, for what the player's value was, is more stealing.
I know,
money.
But I'm talking about like left tackle and free. Like, look at Orlando Brown is spending money on a left tackle in free agency who wasn't very good.
Yeah. So you got 2 things as I tier them. Find out your quarterback. The impact of that is offensive line and wide receiver, right? Those 2 players. But the other thing is, it's a passing league. You have got to defend passing offenses, and they have not been very good at doing that. Giving up big plays, bad cornerback play. Yes, I think they will. I think that's what you're going to see. And then you have what we talked about is, like, you've got to replace a position that you didn't have to think about for a long period of time, which is safety. I mean, Kevin Byard helped you tremendously when he was drafted, and he signed at the time, the highest paid safety in the league, right? It was a position we got. It's kind of like Jeffrey Simmons. Now you got Denico Autry replacement, whatever. But like, when you have those, it makes life easier. reason why the Patriots were so good for so long is that position was at quarterback, right? The Chiefs the same. That is the best case scenario, but there are a couple of positions that you just need to say we don't have to think about. Safety is now not one of those. So safety and corner, I mean, we're in agreement. I think for the priority of free agency.
Number one is we both think the secondary. Yeah. Okay. Look, and look, that doesn't mean we don't think the Titans should sign an offensive lineman, because I think Michael Onwenu to the Titans would be a really solid sign, because that would get you.
I started with the way I did. You got to replace 4 or 3 or 4, right? So you have to. Skoronski's the only guy that you're like, okay, well, he's going to be around for at least a couple of more years.
Yeah, like Andre James is a guy that I had on my list last week when I had my free agency class of 8 signings. Andre James from the Raiders. Bo Hardegree, Nick Holtz had coached Andre James the last 4 years in Vegas or Oakland, whenever they moved. And there was a good pass protecting center who allowed Josh Jacobs to lead the league in rushing one year. But the Raiders brought him back, right? So if all these centers go off the board, and I would rather move Daniel Brunskill to center than bring back Aaron Brewer, right? So now you don't have to replace that one outside. So that means you need 3 new ones, right? And, if you spin a wheel and hopefully that somebody, whether it's NPF or Dylan Radins, can play one of the positions too, then that allows you to have more flexibility. But I do think going after cornerback is the most important thing here. And that's what the Titans have been rumored. Here was Pro Football Network this morning, Chidobe Awuzie and CJ Gardner-Johnson. Zach, I'm going to go through. You got something?
Real quick. Aren't Titans fans tired of praying for Radins? I think the Lord's tired of prayers for Dylan Radins.
I think Dylan Radins could be fine if he was the right guard.
Fine, right. But he's a second-round pick, right? He's never going to live up to that. So, but they're moving him around, and maybe that's a productive environment. Who knows? But I just feel like the Radins is somewhat of a frustration from what he was supposed to be to what he actually is, right?
Yeah,
and
but
everybody's tired of Andre Dillard, right? We're just trying to get the hell out of there.
Sure. I think Dylan Radins could work at right guard if you have to do other things. Like if you don't have a guy sign with you, if you miss a couple swings on free agency, then I think that could be serviceable.
But that's what I'm saying is Radins is always if. Like
he's
an if guy.
Yeah, he's a backup plan. And look, you can't win a Super Bowl with backup plans, but I think you can start building a foundation a little bit and know that, okay, we missed on a couple names that we wanted in free agency on the offensive line. You draft a guy fairly high, and Radins can make do for a year. So anyway, all right. So somebody mentioned that if the Titans get all the 8 guys that I came up with last week, they'd be very, very happy. I'll give a little update on some of the reports that are coming out about the 8-man class that I put on my wish list for the Titans last week. And Zach, I'll see how you feel about my overall homework that I was able to do last week. But first, the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for all of your injury needs, whether it's you with an injury that just life happens and you get hurt, or you've got an ailing injury that's been lingering or coming and going over the last decade or so. Maybe it was an old injury from the past that just simply won't go away, or your son or daughter gets hurt playing youth sports. The Bone and Joint Institute is where you should go and who you should trust to help you get on the road to recovery. You should not fumble that road to recovery. Go check them out in Franklin or online at boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports powered by BetMGM. Download the app today in your Apple or Android app store. Get that cash. You got to bet. Put the wagers in to get that cash. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports for new users. Real quick, I just saw this come across Twitter. Chris Jones, did you see the actual numbers of his deal? You know how much he's making guaranteed this season?
Well, I know 95 was the total guaranteed for the contract's length, but I did not see
5 years, 158.
Yep.
This season, he's getting $60 million guaranteed for the first year. I mean,
look, and
is he worth it? I mean, maybe.
Here's how that works, because
I saw front loaded to all that.
No, I saw, somebody was like, the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and with Chris Jones, or why the cap is fake, right? No, the salary cap is not fake. It can be manipulated if you have the cash to do it, right? So Chris Jones is getting $60 million guaranteed, which means his signing bonus is a load, because now the signing bonus that the Hunt family is writing Chris Jones a check for over the next 3 weeks is going to spread out that salary cap so much that it can work. And so that is having the cash to be able to have Chris Jones get a bunch of money now at age 29 to where it's not going to murder their cap situation in 4 years.
Well, real quick on the whole, now we're just talking NFL in general.
Yeah.
The issue with the salary cap for parity sake, right? The best reason why we love the NFL is because it's parity, right? You get turnover. Now there's dynasties. We've seen the Chiefs, right? You see really good franchises, but all in all, the turnover of playoff teams are pretty good, pretty solid. The harmful thing of that is the salary cap continues to go up. Teams that have their franchise quarterback, again, Patriots reference, you can invest in all of the other things. And if your quarterback's locked up like Patrick Mahomes is for $500 million, which over now the last couple of years, not that much anymore, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy to even
because
think
his was a 10-year deal. So it was like a,
yeah. And so like that impacts the parity because these good teams get better, right? You don't necessarily, you don't want that, but you don't also want top heavy leagues. So I think I find that fascinating. Chris Jones is worth, I don't know if he's worth $60 million in 1 year, but he is a top 3 defensive tackle, right? I mean, top 3 easy.
Yeah. In hindsight, why did Patrick Mahomes' agent agree to a 10-year deal? But anyway, I know it's a lot of money. Like, how you got $500 million, but also you're going to be like middle of the road quarterback pay in like 4 or 5 years.
Look, I don't know why quarterbacks who really want to win, like winning is fun, and $500 million with the right money market account, you'll be fine. Right?
No,
like,
I know. But a 10-year deal, like if he signed a 5-year deal for the same average annual value, then in year 6, you're going to be making $75 million a year.
Right. But it helps your team.
No,
you don't have to worry about contracts and help it.
No, I get it.
I'm not saying it's hard to put ourselves in these positions, but like if I was Patrick Mahomes, I'd do the same damn thing. I'd sign a long-term contract. Now, if I wanted to live in Kansas City,
nobody does that. Like nobody, the NFL doesn't have those level of contracts. That's like a baseball deal.
But Tom Brady did that, not in that capacity, but took a lot less money and was never the highest paid guy for a number of years. And the Patriots benefited off of that a ton late in his career.
Yeah, the longer you have your quarterback locked up, the cheaper he's going to be for you down the road. No doubt about that. All right, so Zach, I went through 8 players on my free agency wish list that I wanted the Titans to go after in this offseason. So it's this week. So I'll give you some updates on them. But the first player on my list was, I went by highest, like most expensive player per year and to lowest. The first guy on my list was Patrick Queen. He's not the first priority, but I think Patrick Queen from Baltimore to go to Denard Wilson's defense would be a really good linchpin to have you build out the spine of the defense with Jeffrey Simmons and Patrick Queen up front. But I see you're nodding your head like you think, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, conceptually.
Yes, but it seems like Patrick Queen is likely to follow Mike McDonald to Seattle. So I don't know if the Titans will be able to have a shot at Patrick Queen. I also had, and this is the biggest bummer of my list, because I had a favorite. I had a sneaky guy that was like kind of like my free agency crush. He's also likely to follow Mike McDonald to Seattle, and that's safety Geno Stone. I thought Geno Stone, who had 7 interceptions last year with Baltimore at safety, would be perfect to go next to Amani Hooker because they played next to each other at Iowa for a couple of years in college. Amani Hooker and Geno Stone are both 24, turning 25 years old. I thought that'd been the most perfect safety duo with Denard Wilson, that familiarity of him being the DB's coach in Baltimore. But it seems like Geno Stone and Patrick Queen and our old friend Jadeveon Clowney are likely to go to Seattle. So that's kind of a bummer.
The new age Legion of Boom.
Yes. Yeah. I also had two cornerbacks I had on my list, Zach. I want to check your temperature. We've talked about one of them in Chidobe Awuzie. I also had Kendall Fuller, who has a connection with Chris Harris, the defensive backs coach from Washington. But Kendall Fuller, 29 years old, has had a couple of really good years in Washington, even though that team's awful. But I thought Kendall Fuller and Chidobe Awuzie would be a really good starting corners set to go along with Roger McCreary in the slot. And I still think Kendall Fuller's in play. I think with us having secondary as our number one priority, I think Kendall Fuller is a really big, nice swing.
Well, and I think that's what we'll find out in the next 48 is what targets are the Titans actually, I mean, they'll be leaked, right? Like, where is their focus going to be out of the gate, right? And I expect it to be secondary. I do. I think that, you know, we're sitting here talking about what should they do. That is what they should do. That's my mindset. Yeah. We'll find out here very shortly.
My other defensive player on my list of 8 would be Azeez Al-Shire to re-sign Azeez. I thought Azeez would be a good starting level player to keep some continuity on that defense. I haven't really heard a peep about Azeez and the Titans wanting to bring him back because teams have been bringing back their own guys all weekend long, and nothing's really happened on that front with Azeez and the Titans. And then I had 3 offensive players. I had Michael Onwenu, who is rumored to be gaining steam with the Titans from the Patriots. I think that makes a ton of sense. I mentioned Andre James, the center from Las Vegas, is staying in Las Vegas with the Raiders on a 3-year deal, which would have been a really good signing for the Titans to replace Aaron Brewer. But my third offensive player, Zach, wide receiver, Darnell Mooney. I think that's the right level wide receiver to go for in this class. I don't think Calvin Ridley's something, and we haven't talked about this. Jack and I and Sam and I have talked about Calvin Ridley, but you know, he's the biggest dude on the market at the position. I'm staying away from that if I'm the Titans. I like the Darnell Mooney level.
I would agree. I mean, and I've seen the Mooney tweets, but you know, I think so. You have Mooney. You know, Burks is the damn curveball in this, right? Because let's say you're going to draft a wide receiver. You have DeAndre Hopkins and you got Burks, who's a first-round pick who meanders on the field when he does, and you don't know what you can get. Kyle Phillips, where is he?
Oh,
you know?
He's in the same boat as. No, I don't know about that.
I mean, but we don't know. But who are you going to bring into this wide receiver room is going to be pretty full, right?
We do have some breaking news.
Ooh. I don't know. So I'm hiding the chat. This gets my whatever chemical to my brain of excitement.
And it fits with the conversation we were just having. And yes, this is from the real Adam Schefter, because we're in that season where you have to make sure, especially with the blue check marks.
Always check twice.
Yes. So this is a requested trade from a popular name we've been talking about. Bengals franchise tag wide receiver T. Higgins has requested a trade per sources. Higgins loves Cincinnati and hoped he would be with the team long-term, but is disappointed that the team has not had any talks about a long-term contract since March of last year. He's ready to move on. So we thought the T. Higgins thing was dead, but here we are, awake again. T. Higgins has requested a trade formally from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, this is kind of the first time that we've heard from T. Higgins camp, right? Now he's sitting here saying, this has been the situation, get me out of here. And now teams are going to be calling, right? And it works out for Cincinnati. I thought Cincinnati did that as a strategic move, right? We discussed that a few weeks ago when it happened. First guy off the board, tagged. That also shows that they weren't having conversations. He's just like, look, nothing's going to change in the 10 days prior to the franchise tag deadline. So maybe that opens some doors up. That would change a lot of things. But what are you going to have to trade away? I've already said my piece. I don't think T. Higgins needs to be in two-tone blue for what you got to give up for him. You know, it's a strategic move by Cincy. Go pick your own players. Do the A.J. Brown route. Go draft well. And that's how you find good talent. But that's pretty intriguing.
Yeah. So T. Higgins officially has requested a trade. from the Cincinnati Bengals coming from Adam Schefter. Now we will see evil
What will
villain.
he yield?
Probably a second.
The Titans can't do that. You
Nope.
can't have a gap of 1 to 4.
7 to 105. You cannot have a 98 pick gap. I mean, hell, you can barely get away with a 67 pick gap.
The only way you can kind of justify that is with the quarterback, and they did that, right? So,
well, not to shove every topic into one show, but if you trade a second rounder for T. Higgins, then you have to trade back from 7 to regain that pick from somebody wanting to come up and get a quarterback. So, that's how the
and there go your tackles.
They're now you go get Brock Bowers at 12th overall, right?
Yeah, Brock Bowers going to be drafted higher than 12.
I don't know. The Athletic just had him going 18th this morning. Brock Bowers thing is very interesting. He can go 5th. He could go 20th. It's a really strange deal with that. So look, this is my favorite week of the year. I think it's the best.
Well, favorite week?
Yes. My favorite week of the entire year. Better than week 1.
Oh, no.
Yes. This is better than
week 1. You get the second week of college football and the NFL.
This is my favorite. This is my favorite week of the year.
You can have it.
Hey, Chris is with me. This is my Christmas, man.
It is. No, but this is like a sub holiday. The real holiday is when you get the juice, when you're sitting there and you wake up. Let me just paint this picture. You've already watched it Thursday night with your buddies, right? Because it's the launch of football. Now you get to wake up on Saturday morning. You get a whole nother slate. And then Sunday, it's all day. And Monday, it's you just look forward to it. You react from the weekend. There's nothing better than the Thursday to Monday of week 1 of the NFL.
Here's the thing. With this is the best. This is just the best. I think it's just because there's no way to be let down because you're going to get paid off by your team could lose in that game and you're just mad. But there's always something that's going to happen. There's always a way to spin the excited hope moving forward.
Your team loses. It's a long season. That's the justify. So it doesn't really matter.
But in this week, everything's on the table. That's why this week is the best. I think it's the best. All right.
I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not going to
It's the best week it's the best week between Valentine's Day and Labor Day.
There you go. I could get on board with that. The problem with the draft is towards the end of Saturday, you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
But then, Brock Purdy. Now it's Brock Purdy segment time.
Yeah. All right. So T. Higgins has requested a trade from the Bengals. We'll continue to follow that. We'll have a bunch of content up on our social media and AtoZSports.com as well. But we cannot skip out on the age game today. But first, I want to tell everybody about our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or check them out online. Say hey to Payne Bone while you're there in Lebanon, or check them out online at WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Zach, I have the chat hidden for the age game. We will create a leaderboard because the age game now. Yeah.
It's already created.
Oh, you did a leaderboard?
Look, hey, I'm a man of my word. I've been talking about this for months. I can't sit here. When I say something, I do it. So the leaderboard's created, and you sent me the winner from the last week. So we are going to reveal the brand new leaderboard for the age game. It's got one winner, right, so far, because we reset. So we'll launch that and we'll reveal it. And I think I got a banger today for this age game. I do.
Really?
A banger.
All right. So our leaderboard, what is it? Let's see the leaderboard.
No. The leaderboard right now, I guess, we can do this. We can pre.
Yeah.
There's only one man.
Titans Kyle.
And that one man is Titans Kyle. This is the official age game leaderboard. This is where you get immortalized in age game lure, and you are a champion week after week. We'll see how many wins Titans Kyle. He may be the only one on here next week. Who knows? That's the fun of it. But, and look, see, Titans Kyle's in the chat. You can't miss it. You cannot miss it. So I was thinking, because last night was the Oscars, which I didn't watch a single second of because it's terrible now. And it promotes something that has nothing to do with acting, in my opinion. I looked at who's the greatest actor ever of all time, and it's one man.
Oh,
it's Chuck Norris. How old is Chuck Norris? Chuck Norris's birthday was yesterday. That's the only hint that I'm giving you. How old is Chuck Norris?
Okay,
the Chuckster.
That picture looks like.
That's a second hint that I gave you, because I gave you an older picture. I could have given you a young Chuck.
No, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say that picture makes it looks like he's a video game version. It's like if Chuck Norris was in Grand Theft Auto, that's what Chuck Norris would look like in the video game.
I would agree.
He does not look like a real person. Either that or an AI generated Chuck Norris, or a really good high quality video game version of Chuck Norris. All right. I know Chuck Norris is old. I don't know how old he is. There was a time where I knew this, and I'm trying to figure out back in the day of what his age was. When I was like, did you know that Chuck Norris is blank years old? And people were like, what? I'm like, yeah. But I can't remember if that was like in 2016 or if it was like 2012. So I'm going to guess that Chuck Norris is 83 years old. That is my
83.
Yes.
Locking it in?
Yep.
All right. Let's see what the chat says. 78 is our first guess for the Chuckster. That is incorrect. That's too young. Ashley, too young. Brad, too young at 81. Titans Kyle, he will not be a second back-to-back champion. He was quick on the trigger, but too young. 78's wrong. Chaz is wrong. We do have a winner, and this is a true guess. But Austin, you were a day off.
Oh, no.
And everybody was actually wrong, because Chuck Norris doesn't turn 84. The earth ages 84 years around him. So it is a trick question. But 84, he turned yesterday, 84. The champion is, let me scroll back up because I refined him. The champion is John Kavanaugh, 84? Question mark? John, you are correct. And you are this week's champion of the age game. Man, Austin, I thought you were close. You're 24 hours close.
I was less than a day away from being on the leaderboard in week 2.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were a few hours. I mean, that's it.
That sucks.
And, I was going to give you your own little section.
Oh yeah. So no pressure. I get my own section if I get it right.
Yeah, but we'll never know.
Well, not for another week at least. Not for another week. So John will be added to the leaderboard. Are you doing it right now?
I mean, I figured let's just do this in real time. Let's just do it.
Let's just
get it over with. This is real time editing, real time producing. Boom! John Kavanaugh is on the board. The age game leaderboard, immortalized forever and ever and ever as an A to Z Sports age game champion, as the late David Stern would say. Way to go, John. Way to go, John.
There you go. All right. And John, you and everybody else, all champions today, because we do have merch left available. It's getting a little thin, but shop.a2zsportsnashville.com is where to go to get 40% off all of our merch. It's already marked down to that new price. So check that out. Shop.a2zsportsnashville.com for our merch. Once we're done with this merch, we can get new merch that's more fun. So get this stuff. It's great. I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. Zach has the pullover on right now as well. It's great stuff, but we're going to try to get more creative with our merch after we can knock this stuff out of the warehouse. So check that out. shop.a2zsportsnashville.com. Zach, any parting words before the legal tampering negotiating window begins in 1 hour and 41 minutes?
I will go with the old school high school gym. Be aggressive, be aggressive.
All right. There you go. Like the show. Hit that thumbs up button on Facebook and on YouTube. Way more people are watching the show right now than hit the like button. So we got to fix that. Hit the like button on your way out. Tons of content to go throughout the day. Make sure you have your notifications on our YouTube channel, on Facebook, on all of our tweets, our Instagram, and also a2zsports.com/Nashville for all of the content there. So we'll see you guys throughout the day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning on the show. Appreciate it as always.
Adios.